Hello, Jennifer DeVoe here, host of Tune Into You Meditation Podcast, hypnotherapist, life coach, and I want to talk to you about boundaries. When I was just starting to figure out where to set and how to set boundaries for myself in my relationships, I wished that someone had made this video because I didn't know what kind of boundaries or standards would actually be reasonable and what would be going too far. And I really wished and looked for a video that would kind of outline what healthy boundaries look like. So now I am creating that video just for you. If you're someone who tends to be more of a people pleaser, more of someone who goes along with what you think other people want and expect from you, this video is definitely for you. Setting boundaries in our relationships is so important for our own health, mentally, emotionally, physically as well. Now, even those of us who have barely any boundaries at all tend to still have a few boundaries, we just don't realize they're boundaries. For example, if you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship with someone, and they physically harm you in some way, for most of us, that is a boundary that they have crossed. They have crossed a line, and there is an expectation that that relationship is over. Period. Done with. There's no conversation. There's no negotiation. When that boundary is crossed, it's crossed. And that is the kind of boundary that I want you to form for yourselves in many different ways. Not just a boundary of, I don't accept physical abuse in my relationships, but also boundaries of, I don't accept emotional abuse either, and I don't accept verbal abuse either, or I don't accept control. These are some great boundaries to have that are just basic, like bottom line boundaries. Someone else, no matter how close you are, no matter how connected you are, does not have the right to control what you wear, what you eat, where you go, who you talk to, period. If that boundary is being crossed, then whether or not you decide to stay in the relationship, know that if you decide to stay in that relationship, you no longer have that boundary. You're saying, this is not a boundary for me. Because a boundary is held in place only by your willingness to uphold it. Now, of course, sometimes, like if I have a boundary that, I am not in a relationship with someone who's lying to me. And let's say that I catch my partner in a lie, and it's just a little lie, and I have this boundary, and I think, well, I have to end this relationship because if I don't, then that means that I no longer have this boundary. Yes, and there can be consequences when someone steps over a boundary for you that aren't necessarily ending the relationship. Maybe one of those consequences is, you're basically on probation until I feel like I can trust you again. Or it could be a 3 strikes you're out kind of deal where it's like, if I catch you in a lie again, then we're done. That's my new boundary. And this is something that each person has to kind of figure out for themselves. But here's the thing I really want you to know. You deserve to be in a relationship that you feel safe in, that you enjoy, that feels healthy to you. You deserve to have the kind of relationship that you want. And that's the thing that for me was so difficult to see in the beginning when I was setting boundaries, because I wasn't thinking about what I want. I was taught not to think about what I want, that actually thinking about what I want and believing that I could get what I want, or like trying to get what I want, was bad, was wrong. That's what selfish, horrible, awful people do. But actually, that's what healthy people with strong boundaries and a healthy self-esteem do. They know that they deserve to be in the relationship that they want to be in. And yeah, maybe they'll compromise here and there. You know, if I'm in a relationship with someone and I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who eats potato chips every night, but our relationship is amazing in every other way except for this one thing, I may decide that what I want more is to have and continue to have this awesome relationship more than I want to be with someone who doesn't eat potato chips at night. So there's compromise and there's leniency and there's ways to work with people, but you actually do deserve to have the relationships that you want to have, the kinds of relationships you want to have. And that doesn't mean that you can expect people to change for you. And that doesn't mean that you're going to get anyone to do anything. But if someone you're in a relationship with is acting in a way where you think to yourself, this is not the kind of relationship I want to be in, you deserve to set those boundaries. You deserve to say, hey, I want to be in this kind of relationship. If you're willing to do that with me, amazing. If you're not, I get to move on because I get to uphold this standard and this boundary for myself. If you're still struggling with what boundaries are reasonable versus unreasonable, here's what I want you to do. Think about someone who you love and care about deeply. Maybe it's a child. Maybe it's your sister or your brother. Maybe it's a dear friend, someone who you really care about. And bring them to mind. Take a moment. And I want you to think about what boundaries you want them to have for their life. When I do this, I think about my daughter, Willow. And I think about what I would want her to put up with and not put up with in a relationship. And then I apply that same thing to me and my relationships. And if something's happening in my relationship that I would not want her to put up with, then that means that I don't get to put up with it either, because I am just as worthy as she is. And sometimes it's easy to see that when we look out at other people, and it's harder for us to recognize it in ourselves. But that's why I want you to do this exercise and use someone you care about as that meter for what is a standard and a boundary that's reasonable versus what's unreasonable expectations. I hope this video was helpful for you. I know that there's so much more to cover in this topic, and I just kind of scratched the surface just a little. So if you have questions or a specific situation you want me to speak into, please leave a comment, let me know, reach out to me. I love to hear from you guys. Until next time, bye.